The Dogmatics were established in 1981. They gained notoriety with a loyal following in the Boston music scene and beyond. The quartet was no different than any other talentless, self-deprecating, beer-swilling, girl-chasing lunkheads with guitars. It wasn't about the money, catching a girl's eye, a free round of drinks, or simply completing a song in unison. Those were their rewards. Known for being local punks performing 3-minute spasms of high-energy garage rock with manic fervor, their song Thayer Street became an emblematic local hit. The band helped create a strong sense of community and camaraderie, while rubbing elbows with other acts like the Del Fuegos, The Replacements, Last Stand, Gangrene, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, Scruffy the Cat, Turbines, The Flies, Cheapskates, Outlets, Neats, Unnatural Acts, Classic Ruins, Negative Effects, SSD, and Stranglehold. Oh, and Darkbuster, to name a few. We humbly present to you the Dogmatics, a dogumentary. The story of a quick-witted, always teasing but never malicious hometown band. Told in part with a treasure trove of long-forgotten and recently uncovered media. Starting with a cassette recording of a live broadcast from early 1982.
Okay, I guess they're going to be taking a couple of minutes to fix up their equipment in there, and we haven't even gotten anything queued up. We've been caught totally off guard here, but they should be back in a couple of minutes with you anyway, so I wouldn't be too concerned. You've been listening to the Dogmatics. They've been playing live next door in our studio, standing by, and they're all ready to play for you again. So welcome the Dogmatics back on Metro Wave.
Okay, we're back again. This is tasty. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Something that I had to do. She's so thirsty, like it is thirsty. Oh, so thirsty. She's so thirsty. I look at her, she looks at me.
Along with these recordings, several vintage videotapes were discovered, with footage from inside their Thayer Street loft. Then, when we spoke with the Dogmatics' original drummer Dan Shannon, we discovered the existence of a cassette containing the band's very first recorded demo.
Now we did a recording at Radio Beat Studios, a cassette with 2 singles on it. Weekends and You Say.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That's new. That's something nobody else has remembered.
Really?
A cassette.
I have the cassette. If you have a cassette player with the original 2 songs on it.
What songs? You Say and what?
You Say and Weekends.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it had I loved it because it was me and Paul used to it started out with a bass riff, you know, it was boom 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 boom, and then I came in with the drums, you know, and then the rest of the band came in after like 8 beats or something. Then the rest of the band started coming in, and
yeah,
that was always me and Paul's fit, you know. He would be like boom boom, and then I would start, you know.
Yeah.
It was 17, 18 playing in a band. And all my friends were like, "Oh, dude, that's awesome!" And they all became Dogmatics fans, you know. And,
Another great discovery was a box of film reels, many with sound, going as far back as 1981. One of the spools even featured the young Dogmatics at Radio Beat Recording Studio. As we look into the formative years of the band, we find Peter working at the Apparel Buying Corporation, also known as ABC.
So back then I was still like living on the South Shore, and I was working at ABC still, and I met Barry Hall, and we had similar sort of tastes in music. We like learning this and that. And
Barry Hall is such a key figure in all of this because there's a couple of different people that brought us from the Rolling Stones into, for me, the Clash and everything like that. Barry Hall was one of them, and this is 79 now, because London Calling came out. And the Clash had a commercial on the radio at the time that said, "Hello, America, this is London Calling. Hello, America, this is London Calling." And it was like obnoxious, and I was like, these fucking guys, it drives me crazy. And Barry Hall said to me, he said, "Hey, you know, that's the Clash. You should check them out," because he said, Pete Townsend even said, if I was 17 years old now, today, I'd be listening to the Clash, not the Who. And we were wearing out live at Leeds at the time on our way to work. We had the tape going, you know, Young Man Blues and all of that.
We also found in the film reels footage of the Savage Beasties with Paul O'Halloran on bass guitar. This group was a precursor to what would come next.
That was a real trip. These guys had a house, and it was all rock and roll house. So down in the basement, was all the gear.
We started the band the Savage Beasties. That entered Sam Babbitt, who is kind of key to us, because he was a phenomenal musician, really. And I guess Joe maybe was the first drummer, and he must have stopped wanting to come down to Plymouth, because then we got Dan Shannon.
I was already like rebel mode at my house, you know, my parents, you know, and then I remember coming home, "Oh, I joined a band. What's the name? The Savage Beasties." They're just like, you know, my Irish parents, like, what the, what's a Savage Beastie?
We decided to get a singer, and his name was Mike Scagalini, Skaggs, rest his soul, he's no longer here, but he was a big Dolls guy. Paul knew him, because Paul knew these kids from Plymouth that were like a New York Dolls cover band. And they came down and showed us like Personality Crisis, and I'm like, wow, this guitar part is actually this easy.
And the egalitarian theory of punk rock, that's right. I'm just like, yeah, you can do it too. Why not?
We played maybe one party, which is also a little bit historic, because Barry Hall recorded some of it. It was in Kingston by the drive-in at some kid's house, and they set up a big tarp. And
The day of that, I shot the film, but that was a real gas, you know.
After the Savage Beasties disbanded, Paul O'Halloran got together with his identical twin brother Peter to form a new band, soon to be called the Dogmatics.
Then I remember they told me, like, we're moving to this loft in Boston. We're going to start a band with Jerry. And the drummer at the time was this fellow called Dan Shannon, who's a fisherman out of Marshfield. Really good drummer. I remember thinking that, it's like, huh, that's interesting that there's going to be a band with twins in it. I wonder if that's ever happened before. I remember thinking, like, that's got to be something that's going to catch people's attention in one way or another. Pete bought his Telecaster guitar, and Paul bought a Telecaster bass. So they both had Telecasters. They were the same kind of blonde color. And it's like, the twins with twin Telecaster. It's like, that is going to be something that, you know, it's not exactly a gimmick, because, I mean, you and your brother share the same DNA. I guess it's a gimmick, but it's also a fact. And you both have Fender-made guitars. But one thing about their sound, too, I want to say. Jerry played a Les Paul. It's kind of gritty sounding, a little distorted. Pete played the Telecaster, and it kind of has a country western twang to it, you know? And a lot of people think, oh, we want to have a band that we want it to sound kick-ass. So they'll have 2 distorted guitars and maybe 2 Les Pauls. And they miss the mark, because it's just like, and they're stepping all over each other's notes, because they have these same frequencies that they're trying to play, and they want to sound really kick-ass, but and they end up sounding like a miserable, pathetic mosquito, really, which is the last thing they would think they'd sound like. But when you have a kind of a crunchy guitar and a country western twang guitar, and you put that together, like, it sounds really cool. You know, because you can tell the difference between the two sounds, and each propels the other one.
And then I got a job on a fishing boat in Scituate, and I was still in the band. And it was, you know, working on a fishing boat and being in a band in Boston is not compatible.
Why not?
'Cause I'd get you know, we'd be at a gig or a party at the Loft, and you know, I'd leave at 2 o'clock. I'd have to be at the boat at 3:30 or something.
AM?
AM.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, the song Teenage Girls, that's kind of, I think I wrote that. I used to listen to the New York Dolls quite a bit. And if you ever hear the song Pills by the New York Dolls, it's kind of the same riff. And Peter and Paul helped with the lyrics on there. They're nothing special, but I think we went for a lot of rhyming there. So we knew we had to get another drummer. TK lived on a street in Orchard.
His family moved to Squantum.
Moved to Squantum, and he knew this kid, Tommy Long, that was a drummer, or wanted to be a drummer. And so we met him. He was only 17, and he joined. And, and he's been trying to quit ever since.
About 5 years now. I play with Duke Ellington at, I don't know, 46. And we be in the studio, you know, from about 12 hours straight. We be beat from a count to a stomp's time we get out, you know.
Public service, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Why are the Dogmatics called the Dogmatics? Well, I would go to what they say. Hey, stupid, go to the dictionary. Dogmaticism, it's like a strident adherence to rules, most notably in religion, most notably in Catholic religion. So here we are, the Dogmatics in Dorchester, Mass., Boston, Irish Catholic, and that's me too. I mean, that's a whole ball of wax right there. We used to call us IRAs, Irish Religious Alcoholic. You know, there's a whole stereotype there.
When a word somehow kind of echoes in your head and you're like, yeah, I know what that, I don't know if I know what that means. I'm gonna just find out what that means, you know. And I looked it up, it says, to express yourself in an authoritative and arrogant manner, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. Yeah, that's a good name for a band, okay. No.
In 1983, the Dogmatics released their first 45 on Cat Records, featuring Gimme the Shakes and a cover of the Eddie Cochran classic 20 Flight Rock. The artwork for the packaging was done by two local creatives that called themselves the Media Ministers.
Yeah, me and BC Kagan, we had Media Ministers, and we were doing, excuse me, we were doing like press kits for bands. It is, you know, it's so true, isn't it? You got Peter with the jacket. I sold that jacket. I had that jacket for ages. My dad was an antique guy after he retired. And he would get all, I'd say, look for jackets, look for guitars, you know. So he said, I've got you a flight jacket. You can have it, you know. And it was a helicopter, 50s helicopter jacket, you know. And the goggles, I don't remember where that came from, but that's, you know, that's definitely Peter there, you know. The rockabilly pilot, rockabilly fighter pilot. And then Paul wrenching with, because they had tons of bikes in the loft that never ran, you know. I think there'd always be one running, you know. TK's Norton or something, or maybe, I think Peter still has the Triumph with the great tank. So there was never more than one motorcycle running at the time. So, yeah. And then Tommy Long, of course, Mr. Beatnik. Yeah, it sums it up. And then the suave Mr. Lane, of course, because he was the suave one in the band, you know? Yeah. But I think that's what, if you knew these guys, you know, It really was for, it was Quadrophenia, South Shore Quadrophenia, whatever. It definitely was, and they brought that into the band, Yeah, super.
And then, there was the whole process of having the record made, which back then was, you had a...
It was a big deal. Yeah.
Big deal. It went to Texas. I mean, it took months, to press it, and we overpressed. I think we made like 2,000, which we still have some left because, we didn't sell all of them, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Kingston, Massachusetts, the Dogmatics.
So we did a demo of at Radio Beat, and we just gave that out to the radio stations. You used to give them a little 7.5-inch reel-to-reel. Bring it, literally drive up to the station, knock on the door, hand them the tape.
When Jerry wrote it, I think it's because when we started living at the loft, we became aware of the existence of cockroaches, right? So I think Jerry in particular didn't like them, and that's what that song is about.
So that's a fun song, It also gives you the opportunity as a guitar player, when it goes down to just drums and bass, to walk over to your amplifier and take a swig off a beer. Me and Pete would often do that together, look at each other, raise a beer, and take a swig.
Give Me the Shakes is a Gerald Lehane composition, and you can see that actually the difference between a Lehane style song and a Paul O'Halloran style song in the way they're set up. Jerry's more of a traditional format songwriter with a verse and a chorus and a lead or a bridge, and then maybe another verse, and then out, or ahead and out. Whereas Paul wrote in a different sort of unique, just floor it type of a way until it's over, and then maybe have someone blasting away on a lead toward the end or something.
Everything's gonna make you leave it alone. Acid rain.
So Barry and Barbara, at one point, they did our press care. They are the media ministers. They were on Winter Street in Boston. They had a loft over there. And look, this was done in 1983. And then they did our single after this. And all these flyers, those are all Barry Hall's flyers. And they were all awesome. People would come to our shows just because of the flyers, not because they ever heard of us. Honest to God. And we would just go around town.
That's the press kit.
Yeah. This is the press kit. And we would literally spend a day going around Boston, up and down Newbury Street, gluing on flyers to each show, a week before, and people would literally come to a show because they saw that. That's how you did your promotion then. And get chased down the street by a business owner. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, remember there was this one asshole guy like,
take that down. Yeah.
In 1985, the Dogmatics released their debut album on Homestead Records, and news of this release made the cover of College Music Journal. Following this exposure, the band began touring the United States. The first LP was called Thea Street. It featured songs like Pussy Whipped, Sister Serena, and King Size Cigarette.
King Size Cigarette was a song by Charlie Chesterman's first band when he was in the Midwest called The Law. And he brought some singles out. He moved out from the Midwest, met Steve Fredette, and he had some of these singles from The Law. And somewhere along the line, Jerry had heard it and wanted to cover it and asked. I want to say that he got permission from Charlie for a Budweiser to put it on the record.
A big fan of The Law and Charlie Chesterman as a songwriter and a guy, a person, and a guitar player, super nice guy. And I had heard that song and I said, this is a great song, we should cover it. So we played it in our regular set. I don't think we ever learned how to correctly play it until we played it with Charlie a few years ago at the Paradise, and I remember him going through it with Jerry and saying, oh, that's the way you do it? Well, I'll just do it your way, you know, and he did it our way, or Jerry's way.
They were Boston's house band, to me. You know, like, there were the Del Fuegos and there were other bands, but the Dogmatics, you would see people from every scene. And there were a lot of them in Boston at the time that would come and enjoy the Dogmatics. You know, there were people from the hardcore scene, there were people from the art band scene, there were people, you know, there were just plain college kids, there were metalheads there. Everyone enjoyed the band.
There's not a lot of groups that were like that. They appealed to the old punks, they appealed to new punks, the hardcore kids liked them, rockabilly people liked them, and there was like a rockabilly strain out there at that time too. They were the one group everybody could agree on.
So at the time, you know, there was a big hardcore scene in Boston. For the most part, we got along with a lot of those guys because we played in a lot of all-age bills with them, and it was like, hey, that's cool, and like all the young people, but they were kind of like, you know, a little bit younger, so they were a little bit more like, you know, we know everything, you know, and like, yeah, relax, guy, you know. So like, you know, it was something that was easy to mock, and that's, hey, that's what we do, you know. So we, you know, wrote a song just messing with them.
Oh my God, hardcore rules. What a piece of genius that is. Number one, that song starts out with them like sort of just buddying around, like they have that in-studio patter going on.
Hanging around in Kenmore Square, riding a pony in my hair.
So he starts singing out that dun 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 dun, like Skip to the Lou, like it's a, you know, a square dance. And then he has that famous thing when he goes, yeah, I call you stupid, look it up in the dictionary, right? Which is a schoolyard taunt, right?
Don't be stupid, look it up in the dictionary.
Hey, nice stew. Where'd you get the whiffle?
Then they stagger into the song, which is a pitch perfect criticism of hardcore outlook, you know, strident outlook of a hardcore fan. That is so, what great storytelling. Minimum amount of words, minimum. They captured that whole narrow-mindedness there, and they did it lightheartedly. I mean, most people laugh at this song, despite the fact it's scathing. It's a scathing indictment of these hardcore people. And look at the genius of that title. It's two levels. It's hardcore rules, meaning we're the greatest music. We're greater than, we rule over any other music. And it's hardcore rules. These are the rules we follow. Don't dress this way, do this, like this music, don't like this band. And that's narrow-minded. What else can you call it? Dogmatic.
Dive out into the crowd. Take the music fast and loud. No such thing as rock and roll. Only yes.
Because hardcore was supposed to be this really serious thing. Something I liked it, you know, it's exciting when I first heard it because it was fast and kind of incomprehensible, which is interesting, you know, but I mean, if you're gonna play like that, where it's like, sound like a record sped up and there's no melody and everything, and if you don't have a sense of humor about that, like, come on, man, like.
So we're probably like in the middle of that on the punk rock spectrum, probably. Because we could go either way. We'd be like, this song is a roots rock sounding song, and this one maybe a little more the other way, you know?
Yeah, I think we were just trying to play. We weren't trying to
we
fit into any kind of, you know, genre. We would,
Yeah.
you know,
And I know to me, like, hardcore seemed like kind of one-dimensional.
Yep.
You know, but it was good, and we had good times playing with a lot of those bands.
The biggest fans of the song were the skinheads, the hardcore crew, the guys with the X's on their hands who supposedly didn't drink or smoke weed. Until you were drinking and smoking weed with them. Then you found out that they may have been some hypocrisy involved.
What they taught me about music is to have fun. That's why people like those guys, even still, is because it's fun. And they didn't take themselves too seriously. They learned the lesson from Mad Magazine, which is a lesson which isn't learned often enough. And that lesson is, you can cut anybody to the bone as long as you cut yourself through the bone. Then that gives you license to do that stuff. And so that's why they can have a song making fun of all these super self-serious hardcore bands, which they certainly were. And they got plenty mad at that too, you know, but the Dogmatics were like, if you're listening to us, you have a lot bigger problems, you know? And also, despite your limitations, you should go for it and do it. One day, Paul came down and he said, hey, I have a piece of music and you need to help me write the lyrics to it. It's gonna be called MTVOD. So we passed the paper back and forth and we wrote it in about less than 10 minutes. Every little city and every little town. In every little basement room, there's a kid with a guitar. So we decided not to use rhyming couplets either. But then we used some rhymes later on in the verses. So that's what we kind of modulated our attack.
I think there was an oversaturation of MTV at that time. And, but now looking back, you wish that's how it was now. At that time, it was just a music video, one after the other. Now I don't even know if it's on now, but if it is, it's shows and there's no music. Paul wrote about how much he didn't like it in the song. If you listen to the lyrics are great. Really, really thoughtful and detailed.
He's sitting in front of the TV. He's watching channel 31. Watching MTV night and day. That's what he calls fun.
In '65, I met Peter and Paul in kindergarten, which was at the Thompson School, right down the street from my house on Maxwell Street. So Peter always tells me he was amazed because I came walking into school alone.
So we go in there, we're the only ones there, me and Paul, my mom's talking to the teacher. She's registering us for kindergarten, and so we're playing with like the toys and the blocks and all these toys. Then in walks this kid who our own age, and he's all dressed in black, and he's gonna sign himself up for kindergarten. And that was TK, because he was already independent then, apparently.
So that's when I met them, and then we met Jerry in first grade, you know, in '66.
So TK was the first one to get a guitar, and we used to go up to his attic on Fuller Street. You know, TK got a guitar and just taught himself how to play. Then, you know, then we try to pick it up, and we're like, wow, we can. It's not that hard, you know. And then Jimmy played the guitar, and he was like the best older brother you could have imagined. So we were like, oh my God, he'd show us how to play. Like that's what, honestly, like we all looked up to Jimmy. So he would take us skating. You know, he told us about girls, everything.
True story. So my nana used to beat the shit out of us for 16. And I went to school together.
That's great when you're a little kid and they're like these tall, imposing women with like very weird habits on, which you're like, what? Why do people wear that? What? You know, you just don't know. And after a while, you accept it. Oh yeah, these women are your teachers, and they dress in this weird way. And gee, the one I had the first year was really nice. Now the second one, she's nice, but what about the third year? She's a monster. Like, what happened?
Talk to her, you better look her straight in the eye.
And I went to Catholic school. I know nothing about the Bible. I know nothing about the Bible. What do I know about? The catechism. They taught us the rules. They taught us the dogma. I think that they're saying, we're the dogmatics. We were put under this authoritarian Catholic upbringing, but we got free. We're not going to be mean. We're not going to be put underneath your rules. Punk means anti-authoritarianism. And that's what Dogmatics is. They're saying we are anti-authority, anti-this.
You know, I think it went beyond corporal punishment when you're dragging someone by their hair down between the aisles or smashing their head against the board. I think that's a little bit over the top, you know.
I mean, she was tough, that's all I know. But they complained about her all the time, and Sister Serena, but I remember her very well. She was a pain in the neck.
Which just made you be afraid of them, mostly.
And if you talk back to her, boy, she's gonna do you some harm. Sister Serena.
There was a Sister Serena probably in every school, every parochial school. And and they were allowed to get away with what they did because your parents would always say, you probably deserved it.
Sister Serena. I hope next year that I get Sister Lorena.
In 1986, the Dogmatics released their second album, again on Homestead Records, featuring a cover of Crazy Caven's My Little Sister's Got a Motorbike. This sophomore release, titled Everybody Does It, ironically and finally included an actual song called Thayer Street.
I wrote that song about Thayer Street, which kind of encapsulates a little bit of what it was like there. The South End was kind of a dangerous area. You had the Pine Street Inn, which was 2 blocks over.
It was a derelict area. There was your classic bucket of blood bar.
Joyce Lenahan, who is now the assistant to the mayor of Boston, she had this idea to put on this talk show, it'd be a punk rock talk show. They had couches lined up and they would do some talking. And then they came to me with this idea of doing Lifestyles of the Poor in the Middle, where I just made fun of that show, Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous.
We drop in the Dogmatics in the understated elegance of their Thayer Street hideaway, soon subject to urban renewal.
One of the things I did is I was talking, I think, wrapping it up at the end, and to make it visually interesting, we were in the loft at the time, I think it was Peter on his motorcycle, did what they call a donut, if you know what that is, which is skidding your back wheel around and going in a circle, and he did a donut with me in the middle. And the noise, the smoke, and the potential dying in the middle of that was very prevalent. It was a stupid thing to try. And they were doing that jousting on motorcycles inside a loft, people. You have to think about that. The skid marks are probably still there.
What a style you have here, Paul. Did they force you to go in this room?
No, I chose it.
Why would you choose this particular room?
The view.
Great. You know, a lot of suburban people can't appreciate a cityscape like that.
The space had the freight elevator and a toilet and a sink.
We had 8 first. That was smaller. I think that was 1,500 square feet. We moved to 16, and that was 3,000 square feet.
And we all had sort of like semi-private conditions. Nobody really had any, would hang up an old carpet like, oh, this is my room.
Both places did not have bathrooms or rooms. We built them.
We did have a practice space, and we had access to the freight elevator. And we're on the 4th floor. It's a 4-story building.
I don't mind saying it, I was the glue. I was the one who made sure we were paying rent, we were doing this. If we needed that, we got this. When we started playing, I was the one who got a PA, I got amps, I had the stuff. There's kind of always got to be that yin and the yang, to make something happen.
And those lofts were big. People, they loved other bands and they would invite them into the loft and have a scene. It was a wonderful feeling time, I have to say, for Boston rock.
There was a regular sidewalk, probably right about here. Then there was a horrible street that was so bumpy. Might as well have been a dirt road. It was so packed up. Massive potholes.
That was Thayer Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I couldn't imagine living in that environment now, but back then it was perfect. So I was with my best friends that I grew up with in school. We're starting a band, and we had no rules. Our first time out of the house, at 19 years old, and playing clubs and having parties after hours and practicing there. And the rent, we actually survived on the band. Most of us didn't work. In fact, I can tell you the story about, I had this old Chevy van, and so the street would get, your car would get burglarized all the time. So it was almost better off not locking. So I had, in the days when the vehicles had a fly window, well, that was knocked out. So I really couldn't keep it. So one day, I gotta go to work. I jump in my my van, and I'm going down the street because where the street was, and just as I'm thinking to myself,
oh my God, what is that awful smell? I hear a voice in the back. The guy goes, hey, ho, slow down, let me out. And there's a hobo sleeping in the back of my van, and Jesus Christ, did his feet stink. And I'm going, buddy, don't fucking sleep in my van. Come on, get out.
And I'm thinking about Paul. It's like, so you know our recording of Saturday Night Again? You know, that part where, and I haven't listened to it for ages, but there's, I think, JG, our keyboard player at the time, there's the one where he's going into his piano part, and in the studio you can hear Paul go, wow! That says it all right there. That's what it was like.
True.
So how is the Dogmatics career going?
Up. Well, since
I know we got to keep turning down offers from like every major label in the country. It's like pretty bad, and we just don't want to.
We know they'll ruin our fun if we ever did sign.
So that's all we're doing. We're going to stay on an indie label.
Excuse me, what's he doing?
We're going to stay on an indie label, purposely.
Make a long story agonizingly longer.
It must be hard being a Dogmatic.
No, not really.
Yeah, easiest thing in the world.
The Dogmatics started out as a young, scrappy band playing local dives. 40 years later, they were an old, scrappy band playing local dives.
Been used to spinning ahead all of my days. Live my life in a drug-induced haze. Pick my head and eat all the bugs. Why must I be a teenager on drugs?
Next song with apology, Dylan on Belmont. 1, 2, 3.
Well, Peter's all about the 50s style. He brings the 50s to the Dogmatics, where Jerry brings the pop punk of the 80s to the Dogmatics. And I bring the hard rock element, perhaps. And Tommy brings the jazz. You know, so we each contribute. There's a bunch of musical influences that make a confluence in the Dogmatics, I guess.
I know that Peter and Paul really loved the Classic Ruins. That was a big band for those guys. I can't remember with Tommy. Tommy didn't really like much of anything.
We all liked a little bit, or at least appreciated enough of the sort of music that the other guy, your fellow bandmate, appreciated.
Oh yeah, the Teenagers on Drugs song, that was a big joke. That was actually written by my cousin Huck McPhee.
He did?
Yeah. Well, I gave him writer credits on it because, well, he used to sing it like as a joke, ha ha ha, like chorus and stuff. So I just made up some other parts to it, and it's just that same chord progression. Then I go, I'll give him writing credits in case I get sued by Dion and the Belmonts, and his ass will be in the sling too. So there was a local thing, and it was on just pre-cable TV. It was UHF, and it was called V66 in Boston.
V66, the beat goes on.
So it was UHF 66 on your dial, and you go there, and it was kind of like a mini local MTV where they'd have a VJ, and they'd be like, hey, everybody, here's a new video by so-and-so, and they'd play the video, and then if you submitted a video, they'd play it. Why not, so.
Well, our next video is another first. It's the first video that I directed. It's the Dogmatics, Good Looking Girls.
MTV was
quite young at that time, and there was an explosion of interest in making music videos just to get exposure. And I'm not just talking performance pieces, I'm talking those concept videos. I had heard of the Dogmatics, their flyers were everywhere, and my good friend Julie was their manager. So I had just started working at a post-production facility in Kenmore Square when Julie came to me and said, and asked if I would be interested in editing and directing a music video for the 45 release of Good Looking Girls. And without hesitation, I said yes. I had access to the equipment there, and I had a lot of friends who would help out.
Number one, the songwriting is always great. But then again, there's the leads that are in there by Pete. And he does this thing in that song, and I don't have the exact notes, but this is sort of like this. And it's so, number one, it captures your ear. You hear that song, and it skips, it's light. And it just, that's what you get over the songwriting. And this is, to me, it's a lot of what they are, is that lick. It's just it's a schoolyard taunt. Ha ha! It's a schoolyard thing. And they are so schoolyard in a lot of the things they do.
It's just like, how they say there's nothing new really. So it's like, where did I steal that lick from? Let's see. Wait a minute, who says I stole it, right? Susie Q, or Smokestack Lightning, Howlin' Wolf. It's like, it's a riff, man,
So we had a very brief creative treatment meeting. Julie told me that motorcycles and their loft apartment was important and needed to be included in the video. And so we shot the Good Looking Girls video using the Good Looking Girl friends of the band and Julie and a friend I knew from college, Jonathan, who went by Robin at that time. And we shot it in various locations around Boston, and including, my apartment. Nobody got paid except for the film costs and the processing costs and the pizzas that were provided.
The Dogmatics are a rock and roll band, just straight up. Look, I've come up, I believe I came up with this phrase. I call them the blueprint of Boston Garage Punk 101. And that's exactly what it is. You know, you want to open up an encyclopedia, a dictionary, and look up Boston Garage Punk 101. Dogmatics should be the first band listed there.
The Dogmatics are a sum of their parts, really. You know, those guys, I've always said that, you know, they're the Rolling Stones of garage rock, because it doesn't work when you split them up. You put them together, and it's the sum of the parts. They just sound great together. Alone, you know, it's a little different.
It's probably the most punk song they ever did, You Say. And Pussy Whipped is slow-paced. You know, it's leaden, it's like a slow march. So they can go either way. They're not like a one-trick pony. And this is where you begin to see the genius of Tom Long on drums. He can play a fast beat, like a punky thing, and sound completely, you know, solid on that, or he can do these slower things, which are harder to do. When Pussy Whip, that could sound slow and leaden and plodding, and it doesn't. Especially when they covered Summertime by the Unnatural Acts in 2019. That's a very slow, sort of leaden song. Does it plod? No, it never does, because Tom and Jimmy on bass are so solid. It's slow, but it has a quality to it that doesn't drag. Tom is one fantastic drummer, and he's perfect for the Dogmatics. As a matter of fact, I think the Dogmatics sound as we know it, that's Tommy Long. If you had a different drummer, he wouldn't sound the same. That overall sound, that's Tom. And I don't think people realize that, because the singers are always so, you know, in your view, that's the main guy thing. But Tom, he's doing a lot. He's very interesting drumming.
I learned to play those Dogmatic songs by watching the bands that went on after us. So I would watch Paul Murphy from The Liars, from the side of the stage, and basically I didn't have a notebook in my hand, but I was just stealing outright everything that guy did. And then funneling it through, filtering it through my brain and applying it to my sensibilities.
I was the whole road crew. I had some mixing board experience, some sound experience. I had a lot of roadie experience, guitar tuning experience, and all of that. So I kind of did everything from carry the equipment in and carry it out to mix and sound at some of the shows. And I don't know, I brought a lot of beer from the bar to the band on stage.
They already had a record deal, or just had signed a record deal when I started managing them.
And it was Julie that did all of she got all the triptychs and how to get from one place to the other. And if she wasn't there, I don't even know if we could have all done it, because you had, 5 guys in a van at 22 years old giggling and drinking beer, and I don't know how that would have went off without Julie.
You know, a lot of babysitting, a lot of den mother kind of stuff, you know. I later became a middle school teacher, and, you know, nothing can train you better to, you know, run a middle school classroom in New York City than having worked with Dogmatics for 3 or 4 years.
So we played in Montana, 2 places. We played at the station, And then we played at the University of Montana, which I think is in Missoula. I think that's where the university, and we played in the cafeteria at lunchtime. Where there were punk rockers doing this stuff while we were playing, and other kids that were just like horrified having their lunch. But it's a university, so it's huge, you know. But that was pretty fun.
And that's another thing they have in their quiver is Peter singing. Because he's got that, I'm gonna tell you about that. And that is just a whole, whenever he does that, I love it live.
He knows he's a bad singer. He knows that, but he doesn't care.
That motorcycle used to reside, it lived at the loft. We used to take that up the elevator. Pete used to drive it up a plank onto an elevator, a freight elevator. We'd take it up to the second floor, drive it into the loft, and be parked in the middle of our loft along with 4 other motorcycles that were sometimes working, sometimes not, depending on, you know, how, I don't know what the word is, but yeah. So it would be if these guys were not being lazy, if they were not sleeping and they decided to work on their bikes and get them going, you know. So.
Well, it's kind of weird because a lot of my memories, especially being a kid, like, I don't know how anyone else's memories are, but my only memories now that stick out are ones when I wasn't with them because we were together so much. So I don't know if that's a weird twin thing, but I'm sure, I don't know if this is a good place to tell the story about when I was 4 years old. So we did everything together. And if you're used to having a twin brother, you're just used to having a twin brother. Somebody that looks like you was always like with you and in front of you. So for some reason, I must have been 4 years old or 5 years old. It's on the periphery of my memory. But my father used to take us to Joe the Barber's in South Boston. That's where he used to get his hair cut. And so I guess it was a Saturday or whatever, and he took me there. But for some reason, Paul was sick, so he had to stay home. So, you know, I'm 4 years old, whatever, I go to the barbershop, and my dad opens the door, I go in the barbershop, but there's a full-length mirror down the other end, and I went, Paul's here, and I like ran to the end, and I just smashed into the mirror. So, I think my dad had to explain the situation, you know, like, yeah, you know, and I'm sure they got a big laugh out of it.
I had talked to Paul on the phone, and he was coming down here with his friend. He didn't say how he was coming or anything. He just said he was coming with Eddie McGarry. And then the phone rang. It was late, and the phone rang, and it was Social Hospital. And the doctor said, there's been an accident.
It was well into 1986, and the Dogmatics had just finished up their second U.S. tour. They were hitting their stride and starting to accelerate musically when tragedy struck on October 23rd. My brother Paul O'Halloran was killed in a motorcycle accident. The pain was so great from this devastating loss that hopes of continuing the band were dashed.
Once that night happened, I just didn't believe it. I found out about it from the worst of sources, just somebody I didn't really care for, coming up and telling me, like on the street when I'm pulling up home, you know, Paul Halloran's dead. I'm like, what? Get out of here. He was killed on a motorcycle this afternoon. I'm like, get out of here. And then I went up the loft and you could see that was true.
I think a light went out in Boston that never was relit. Maybe that's bold. Maybe there's bands that would think that that's ridiculous, but I think there was. Certainly the Dogmatics, and the Dogmatics were one of the premier bands in the city at that time.
But I always missed, you know, my buddy, Paul. It was a terrible loss to the band and the music community. I mean, if you ever witnessed the turnout for that dude at benefits and parties and every night when you're walking down the street or going into a club, you know, people would always approach you and tell you a story. Stuff that I never knew. And I would say, wait a minute, where was I? Oh no, you don't know. We had our own secret relationship with that guy. And so Paul really left his mark on a lot of people in Boston, yeah, and beyond.
It was probably the saddest day of our lives, easily. It was like everything stopped, everything slowed down, and like the world ended. That's how it felt to all of us, you know. And then, you know, I don't remember when Peter came home, but when he came, you know, I couldn't even console him. I couldn't do anything. We couldn't even console each other. We didn't know what to do. We just had never ever dealt with something like that. Yeah, I mean, and that was it, you know. It was, everything stopped after that for a long, long time.
Yeah. And it is the one single saddest thing that has ever happened in the Boston rock scene. That's it.
It's the 20th of December. The snow is falling down. 10 more square deserted. And the ride is fucking packed. But it sure doesn't feel like Christmas time. It sure don't feel like Christmas time. It sure doesn't feel like Christmas time. It sure don't feel like Christmas time. Oh no.
The Christmas song. Now that was one of my earliest memories of it. Was I was sitting on the couch in Kingston, and it was near Christmas. And Paul was sitting there, and he was talking about a song that he wrote about Christmas. And he had like some ratty old paper that it was written on. And there was an acoustic guitar maybe that he sang it on. You know, of course, he's like reading it off the lap, but I think that's the first time I ever heard it.
He sings it with such feeling. It's, you know, to some people that's, you know, one of their favorite Christmas songs, even though it's a heartbreaking Christmas song. So it's kind of weird why it resonates with, you know, people when Christmas is supposed to be happy.
So you get this like kind of raggedy, big, too tall tree, and it was just like, who cares? The Christmas tree, you know, it's short money.
What I remember is on Christmas, I bought the Christmas tree and it was on the porch. And I was going shopping and it was too tall for him. I said, cut the tree down a little bit.
So my mom goes, yeah, it's too tall though, cut some of it off, right? So we just shook it out and he lobbed about like 2 feet off the top of it. And that was like this crappy square Charlie Brown. Yeah.
Instead of cutting the bottom off. And when I said to him, Paul, what did you do? He just laughed and said, you told me to cut it off.
It has a sad it always did have a sad feeling to it, you know, because back then it seemed the weather was, we didn't really have winters then. It was like, and it was just miserable. And, you know, the rain is coming down in Kenmore Square. That's like, it captures that feeling. It was just like shitty, you know, instead of being a joyous white Christmas snow falling.
We were somewhere and we were getting a sub, and like, there was this homeless guy, like, begging for money, and he just had this like a turkey and cheese sub he just got, and of course we're starving, but he just went over and he gave the guy half, and he's like, here, you gotta have a plan, man, he says to him, and he like, so that's the way he was about stuff like that, you know.
Christmas Time was a song written by Paul. It was 100% Paul's song about being bummed out at Christmas and poor and who knows what else. And we were able to, through our manager, to get Jonathan Paley, who's a Boston rock heavy hitter, to work with us. So he also wanted to meet with us. And I think it was the night before. He met with us at the Rat and he said, you guys have a reputation. I don't want any fucking around. Be on time in the studio. He's very professional and a super talented guy.
Be well rested. Don't go out and get fucked up the night before. So, you know, just like anything, like getting ready for a big game or something like in sports. Okay, that was my analogy. So I of course, I went home. I went to bed nice and early, had some milk and cookies.
Good beer up here in Canada.
He said, you know, I know you guys. Don't pull the shit with me. You know, you shouldn't have told us not to do something. He left the Rat. We stayed there drinking. We went back to the loft and engaged in some more activity, some extracurricular, mind-altering substances. Stayed up very late. I don't think ever slept. Paul and I, who could get in trouble together, right, very well. And, you know, Jonathan Paley can't tell us what to do. So by the time we showed up at the studio, we were basket cases, at least I was. And I don't think he was doing too good either. And I was wiped out and had to do several recordings of the song. And again, that voice from the inside the booth kept coming, but this time it was Jonathan Paley. So it really was God. You know, yeah, Tommy, you want to do that again? Yeah, do that. No, and I would even just start it, you know, one note, start over. And he said, cut it in half, do the Phil Spector thing. So I tried that, the boom, boom, pop, boom, 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 pop, you know, Phil Spector, famous for it. The night he left, yeah. So it's a great thing and it works, and he was right. So I did that a few times and he said, you have to lean forward because that's where the imaginary board is with the big button and the glass. And he said, you have one more chance, then I'm going to come out there and do it. So armed with that, the threat from Jack Paley, I said, that's it. I bolstered my courage and pulled it off. And I thought it came out okay. And I thought I was free. You know, now I'm done. Not true. Now I had to play these jingle bells that were 4-foot-long sticks wrapped with bells, and they weighed about 11 pounds each. And I had to play them in time with headphones while everybody was in the booth. And the mood was lightening at this time, and that was like the last thing to do. So, and it was hot as hell. So Paul ran out, mercifully got a pack of Bud Talls, I remember, and I was cranking those and trying to play the jingle bells on time. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Now I'm down to my underwear because it's so hot. And everybody in the booth is just looking at me like in various states of just like, disbelief or uncontrollable laughter or pity. I think I saw some pity on a few faces. And we finally pulled it off and, you know, wrapped it up, and it was done. That was that radio beat.
I don't love you like I used to do. I don't love you like I used to do. I don't love you like I used to do.
Yeah, because Johnny was originally the one that filled in for Paul, because I didn't really have any bass experience. Paul was like the spark of the band, I think. Of this, well, he was a spark of rock and roll in Boston back then. He was a bright spot, and so he'd get really enthused at times like that, and that's what people like, I guess. And sometimes I feel the same way. I think maybe his spirit jumps in me or something when I'm playing, or I like to think that. I don't know, like I think of him a lot when I'm playing.
Yeah, so we had a Telecaster bass also. So it was kind of like, you're like twins, we got the same color Tele bass, Tele guitar. It was just, we fell into it, you know. And so that's the one that my older brother Jimmy, who now takes over on bass here, who's now this guy. Now he's got a Telecaster bass that looks exactly like the other one. So when my brother passed away, we ended up burying him with this bass because they came out and, like, you know, when you're young and you don't think you're ever gonna die. And I think I said to him, I had a motorcycle crack up and it was close. And he goes, I go, well, remember, if I die, I want you to bury me with my guitar. Yeah. And so it came to pass, and so we buried him with his bass. And the case was moldering away in the basement, and I ripped the fender sign off and screwed it to the side of my van. Still have that artifact from the old days. So. Well, every so often we'll do like, oh, you guys want to do a benefit, or you want to do this, you want to play at this place, back up so and so. You know, it's nice to be asked. It's nice to still be on the radar screen, whatever. So, yeah, we'll do that once in a while. But we're like, let's do we kind of just agreed. Let's do some more stuff.
I remember feeling positive about it the first time we reunited as a band with one of the brothers on bass. That was a big part of it for me. I remember that I had someone with the same attitude, fucking DNA. That made it work for me. Because it was like playing with the same person, with mild subtle differences. But to have one of his brothers there was perfect. And I recall playing, being happy about it. It was a joyous experience. I mean, you know, it wasn't dark and gloomy. It was a celebration of a guy's life who played great music and taught me a lot about it. And now here I was able to play with someone who he taught a good deal about music, his little brother.
What appealed to me was Paul's bass riff, and that is like one of my favorite little chunks of music. Boom, boom, doom, 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 boom, and Paul's bass line is just another chunk of Paul that lives in infamy for me. You know, it's my favorite thing, and I would look forward to him playing it any time I ever saw them, was for him to get to that spot.
To do it a benefit, we'll do it, you know?
Yeah. There's a reason to.
Yeah, there's a reason, and remember, and shit sucks.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, those are automatic. I think back in the day we've done some benefits that we didn't. I remember doing a benefit for Mel King Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a local rep in the South End.
He ran for mayor. He's the first black.
That was at the loft.
That was
He
at the
ended it
loft. We actually
for mayor in
we-
84.
What's that?
A benefit at the loft? It was
We did a benefit at the loft for Mel King to raise money for his campaign for mayor.
Yeah.
He didn't win.
But so what? Who cares? We had a great time.
I know. We try to mix it up a little bit, you know.
We've
throw in-
become philanthropists.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Self-parroting.
If there's a benefit, we will do it.
It is true.
You know, we used to be only in it for the money,
Yeah.
which was huge.
It was. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
you
the
went
payoffs
bankrupt, yeah.
were miraculous.
It was kind of cool because you're playing plugged in electrically beside a pool, so all kinds of bad stuff can happen. Fortunately, it didn't. And you have kids like running by you, jumping off the diving board. The diving board was like right there. That's how close we were to the water. It's kind of nuts, you know?
That is funny.
Brilliant. I think we're in a great situation now. I mean, we basically, you know, we're fortunate to have pretty much the same band we've had. You know, Paul passing, the only people that have filled Paul's place have been Johnny O'Halloran or Jimmy, right? Playing bass. And we've added James, who gives us like, you know,
So yeah.
a lot of talent. And so, you know, those other instruments, I've always wanted some, you know, JG, for instance, having him as a keyboard player back in the day. You know,
Yeah.
Tommy was a little reluctant about that, but, you know, it worked, and it was great. But we've never entertained doing that again. But now the mandolin, that song, Wilbur Ross, I was like, okay, this is going to sound great for that. And James was able to write something almost immediately. And since then, you know, we've talked, and he showed us some of his songs, and we're hoping that we can make those songs into Dogmatic songs, you know, in the future. We need, you know, because it's a process. That's what we've always done, is try to write about what we know. And so, like I said, I think he showed me, Jade probably showed me, I don't know, 10 songs so far. Almost all of them were really good. But we're not going to give the band to Jay right just this minute. But we've got to get Pete's song. I'm like, so, and actually Paul has some songs that we are going to definitely re-record. Acid Rain is definitely, I can't wait to play that and record that. It's such a great song.
Acid Rain is a great song because it is old and it's absolutely current now. The issue is right out there. It's worse than it ever was. That acid rain issue is sort of in that whole climate change issue.
The Dogmatics didn't play together for many years following Paul's death, but the legacy of the band didn't fade. When called upon for the occasional benefit, they reassembled to perform and support the cause. 33 years after their sophomore LP, the Dogmatics returned to the studio and recorded She's the One on Rumbar Records. The 7-inch vinyl EP features the Ballad of Wilbur Ross, I Love Rock and Roll, and the acclaimed title track, She's the One.
It's really great to be in a studio that's both like relaxed and professional at the same time. So he went to Ed Reamer's studio, which is in his barn in his house, but he's a total pro, great guy. And
You know, the Dogmatics, they just have that thing about they're Boston. There's never been a more Boston band than the Dogmatics. Even the group Boston. I never got any hometown vibe from Boston. But the Dogmatics, when I hear them, it just brings back the idea of we're in Boston in this situation.
Acid Rain was a song that was written back in
gonna say 84?
84 by Paul O'Halloran. And we were fortunate enough to find a Metro Wave tape so that we could get the exact lyrics. And we re-recorded it with Peter singing the Paul's vocals.
And we re-recorded it, and on the way up here, when Jay was playing it on it, I couldn't tell the whole twin thing. I couldn't tell whether it was me singing or the original with Paul singing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They're not, to me, they're not an 80s act. They're not a revivalist act. They're not a reunion. They're not an oldies act. You know, they are a band, a current band. They are today's current band. And if you were to ask me who one of my favorite bands are of today, it's the Dogmatics.
The Dogmatics have continued to evolve with the times, while still remaining true to their fundamental garage rock sound. They enjoy experimenting with variety in their recordings. In 2022, Rumbar Records released the band's latest EP, Drop That Needle, which is seeing strong play from both their longtime fan base as well as new listeners.
Oh, so anyways, so this right here, this is great.
Serious question.
This is, been released. It's done really good. We're very psyched. We have a great relationship with Rumbar, with Lou. Lou's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like we call him up, oh yeah, we got new stuff. All right, we'll put it out. And that's how it is.
Oh yeah, I wrote the song Odd Roman Kalashnikov. It's a 2-minute history of the AK-47 rifle. I wrote it just before the whole Russia-Ukraine thing started, and I could have added a little anti-Russian "fuck you, Putin" to it, but I missed that boat, and it's already out. So.
They just dipped their foot into this political problem out there. And what a job they did with that. They took this very, very heavy subject during the time when there were school shootings and everything else to step in there and do this song about AK-47s. They're pumping it out punk style. So it's a typical Dogmatics thing. It's a sugar-coated pill. It's a hard subject done in a sweet way. And they got away with it, and yet what they're doing, there's no mistake of what they're doing and saying.
Jerry pulled out the press kit and it was like, oh, there are these great, graphics from the different concerts that they were playing. So we were able to like repurpose those.
Yeah.
And just like the fact that there was the one that we used for the Automat Kalashnikov single, that it was this perfect, like vulture on a machine gun, and we just we communicated with Barry and was like, can we use these graphics? Can we alter it? I'm gonna alter it to look like an AK. So it's like, but that's all we had to do.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting there perfectly. Pulled out some of the image, some of the venue specific stuff, and that's where both that graphic and this one came from.
Right.
So it kind of came full circle, being able to use this stuff that was part of the press kit.
So this song, Drop That Needle, was written upstairs here and where we practice. So we were doing it on acoustic, and me and James were like singing Drop That Needle over and over and over, and it was, it's just like when you were younger and you heard a song.
And you listened to
45s, like...
Oh, Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk,
Yeah.
like something like that.
Terrific
You play it again, and you kept doing that.
Total great success, which is, you never know what's going to hit. I was shocked when Jerry starts telling me, like, hey, they're actually playing this and they're paying us. So that's a rarity in this low-level rock and roll scene,
So the Dogmatics today, you made a record, Drop That Needle, and that song can hang up there with anything. Best of the Replacements, best of the Ramones, best of the New York Dolls, best of the Who, best of the Stones. I mean, that's a song that was made today, that was written today, that was recorded today. That's Boston Garage Punk 101 for you. Drop That Needle on the record, baby.
Good night. Buy our record and shit. And maybe we'll be back, we hope to.